So let's get stuck into bass. This is convoluted and this is silly, but it just it just works for me so well. And I don't know, it's mental, but I'm proud of it. I'm proud of it, guys. So the first thing that I do with the bass track is I get the audio onto the bass channel and then I normalize it to peak at -12. I do this across loads and loads of audio tracks when I'm mixing. It just gives me a really, really good place to start from. But this whole thing is gain staged around expecting a bass at that level. So the first thing that we have is a low pass filter, and yeah, it's at 7.5K. That seems pretty random. I'll just fiddle around. Often there's some air and picky, clacky stuff up there, and particularly if it's like a noisy recording, I don't need anything that's like above 5K in the bass, really. So I just get rid of that pretty early on. And then we have the SSL channel strip, and here, usually on almost every single bass ever, I have to cut like some 240, 350 hertz. And then this is a great way, like you can boost low end here and then filter it up to control it. That's really, really cool. Or you can try that other thing where you just get 30 hertz and crank it, and then just bring it down until it's not too flabby. There's just two things that I do with low end to get it dialed in pretty quick in every single mix, and they're both on an SSL channel strip. Also, before we go into the matrix, oftentimes I'll get sent a very dynamic bass performance, and it can be handy to just do a tiny, tiny, tiny little bit of like 1 or 2 dB of compression just to seat the bass ready for everything else that's about to happen. So yeah, just a bit of tone shaping there, and then I can also balance it and make sure it's going to hit into the matrix the right way. So you can see there's two sends here. You've got BP1 and BP2. You can see that the inputs of these channels all say BP1, and then this one says BP2, and you can see that all of these get sent to BP2 as well. It's going to make sense in a minute. But essentially, all of these are different returns to this send. And we have a SansAmp style plugin where I can dial in some sort of amp tone. Really, really good for adding top and grit and scooping a bass out. And then we have like a rat, so if I need any distortion, and then that's EQ'd 400 to 2.5K. I don't need all the fizz from it, and I don't need any of the low end from it. When I'm dialing that in, I'll be checking the phase and making sure that these filters aren't putting stuff out of phase and it isn't sounding too weird every time. And the same thing here, I have this Siemens style EQ from Soundtoys, 1K just boosted fully, and then into Decapitator, it's just getting a little bit of saturation, and then I'm filtering off the low end. And again, I'm always just checking what's going on here with the phase, like parallel EQ in the box. For some reason, it's just a really great way of throwing things out of phase, so just be careful. Then we have the last one, a Neve style preamp thing, an API style preamp thing. These are by Kush Audio. They sound great. This one adds mid-range. It's an API style thing. That's what you'd expect. This one rolls off so much top and adds so much low end, like way more than I'd ever expect. But it sounds amazing. And the two of them together just saturate the lows and the mids in a certain way that it gets all farty and weird. And I love the sound of it. I don't know, it just works. So then you can see that all of these, and including the original, all go to BP2, and the return of that is here. And this is just an LA2A style plugin set to stun. So this will just be all the way down at like -20. It'll just be completely pinned. And then as the bass note rings out and gets quieter, this is getting louder and louder. It also does this really, really cool thing. At the beginning of a bar, it'll just add a nice bit of punch or a little bit of attack to the bass. So yeah, then all of these get summed to a bass channel. And the bass channel, the first plugin on it is an API channel strip again. Yeah, it's just super handy. If I need to do any more tone shaping, I can do here, like just a little shelf, a little tuck, maybe adding some more mid-range. Maybe it needs a little bit more control. All of this stuff here is happening in parallel. and sometimes I'll end up with them like quite far down, and then actually what I'm getting is quite an unprocessed tone with a lot of parallel stuff in it, and then all of that kind of needs gluing and seating together. So that's kind of a cool place to do that for me. And also it's got the high pass filter on here, so if I need to just, you know, if I decided not to filter earlier, but now I've put all that extra processing on and I need to filter at the low, I can do. And then also it's super handy again just having this fader, because then I know that I want my bass to be hitting about here when it goes into my mix bus, so I can just do that there and that's done. It's just like really quick workflow. Next thing is DSE Q3, and this is on my template in loads of different places, and you guys have probably heard of Soothe. This is Soothe but in broadband, so it can do low end stuff, it can do high end stuff. This is just a super powerful plugin. You can change the attack time, the release time, you can change how selective it is, so it'll do like really tight notches, like way even tighter than Soothe will do, and then you can make it so that it's not selective at all, and it'll do really broadband stuff. And then we have two compressors. So this is the Logic one that's opening up on the biggest setting you've ever seen it on. This is keyed into instrument 2, which is KGSC, kick gate sidechain. I'll create MIDI nodes of the kick and the snare at the beginning of every mix, and then I have these little MIDI impulses that this is listening to, and this is all set up so that if I normalize the velocity of those impulses to 100 velocity, then this sidechain will just do 1 dB of ducking every time, and I never have to set up my sidechain compression because I want it to be super transparent. These settings work. Done. I can turn it on and it works. And then we have another one, and this is doing exactly the same thing from like 100 hertz down. So that means I'm getting 1 dB of sidechain compression from my kick on the broadband bass, on the total bass, but then on the low end I'm getting 2 dB, and that means that I can squish things a little bit more in my stereo output even more transparently, right? This isn't like EDM, you know, it's not like wham, wham, wham. So that is it, right? And then there's a send on here, but I'll get into that later. So it's kind of convoluted. Get a bass track, normalize it so it's peaking at around -12 or unity gain here. Cut the top end off, maybe do some shaping. It gets sent through all these different parallels, comes out sounding brighter, fatter, dirtier, more compressed, and like really lively and amazing. Comes out here. Can do a little bit more control, maybe do some sidechain if I need to. Those only ever go on at the end of the mix. And then it goes to the stereo output, and that's bass. So don't forget, you can download this template from the link below. And if you've got any questions, just leave them in the comments. After this, it's going to be a big series on mixing guitars. Like and subscribe for a new video every week. Shred and art.